Well, hi, and welcome to the Owatonna Today Show, your community connection since 1991. My name is Pete Connor, your show's host on this Friday, the 28th of July, coming close to August. Where does the summer go? Everybody says, where is the summer gone? Well, we have a delightful show for you today. We're going to have, for both segments, our new superintendent of schools at the Owatonna School District, Jeff Elstead, who is going to be with us to share. I just know many things about not only himself in terms of his background and his experience and also his philosophies and some other things that are important in terms as it pertains to the leadership of really a very nice school district here in the city of Owatonna. As for usual, on Friday we take some time to highlight our valued sponsors. I'd like to do that now. Our premier sponsors are the City of Owatonna and Owatonna Public Utilities. Our primary sponsors, Amy Swain Hearing Centers, Fairway Foods, Little Theater of Owatonna, and the Owatonna Foundation. And our interlude sponsors, the Bremer Bank, Brenda Bednar Mortgage Office, Cedar Valley Services, Carlson Branstad and Company CPAs, ERA Gillespie Real Estate, Fairview Animal Medical Center, Horizon Eye Care, the Owatonna Business Development Center, Steele County Historical Society, Steele County Transitional Housing, the Third Hand Video Productions, Triam Graphics, and TPS Insurance. And we hope that you support these wonderful people who are sponsoring us. It's only through them that we can bring people like Jeff Elstead to you to tell us things that are important to all of us. So say thanks to them when you see them around, or if you have any ideas about who might be a good sponsor, let us know. Give Leanne Alt a call, our show's producer, at 390-5751. So now we're going to take a bit of a break to highlight some of those sponsors again, and then we'll be back with Superintendent Jeff, so please don't go away.
Hi, I'm Dr. Beth Giltvet.
And I'm Dr. Nick Vincelli of Horizon Eye Care.
We want you to see what you love and love how you see. We're proud sponsors of the Owatonna Today Show.
Welcome back to the Owatonna Today Show, your community connection, and a big welcome to Jeff Elstead, our new superintendent of schools here in Owatonna. Good to have you on the show.
Thanks so much, Pete, for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Welcome home, or welcome back, I guess is a way to say that, because this is not your first rodeo, as they say, in our school system.
That's correct. That is correct.
Riding a different animal.
I certainly am doing that, yes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you've been profiled in other places in the press and so forth, but maybe let's capture a bit of your background in terms of your education. What you've done academically, and I think we want to move then into kind of what your philosophy of education.
Sure.
What are you bringing to Owatonna?
Sure. Well, my history starts in Faribault, and I've often joked that if you would have told me 30 years ago that I was going to be the superintendent for the Owatonna Public Schools, I would have said you were crazy.
Yeah, right. There were certain words that you might have used 30
That's
years
exactly
ago.
Right, exactly right. But I will tell you, 16 years ago, my wife and I moved to this area and moved to Owatonna, both of us to teach here, but mostly to raise a family. And Owatonna is a city I love, and putting all jest aside,
Sure.
Owatonna is such a great community, and to have the opportunity, Pete, to be able to come back to this community and serve when you know the people and you know the impact that the schools have had, particularly also our business partners and all of the partners that we have. It's certainly been near and dear to my heart, and certainly blessed to have this opportunity to come back and serve Owatonna.
Excellent, wonderful.
Yeah.
You're a classroom teacher, administrator when you were here the last time, and obviously you learned some things about, there's a cultural issue here, right? I mean, simply culture here in Owatonna is different than the one in Faribault or the one in Austin or Alberta, whatever. I mean, we have our own, and so you came with that in your pocket, your back pocket, so to say, and I'm sure you've built on that since then.
The wonderful thing is when you get to raise kids in a community is you start to identify how that culture impacts your own children. and just the culture of excellence that we have here. You know, my oldest daughter, Kirsten, will be a senior at Luther College next year, and she talks and speaks so fondly of her time in the Owatonna Public Schools and how well prepared she was to go on to that next level of education. My son Derek recently graduated in June, is headed to Mankato State University, and again, just so many opportunities for him. And then I have two younger children, Kaya, who will be a 10th grader, and Micah, who will be a 7th grader. Just really unique, and that whole culture piece starts to weave into the expectations that they have of themselves. But again, you know, I'll go back to my previous time in Owatonna. I recognized early on that this community embraced public education and saw the value that every single student needed to have that opportunity. And so all of those things are kind of that interview, if you will, for the last 12 years that I've kind of been watching Owatonna from afar to say, I want to be part of that school system again in that community.
And you know, your career, and we understand career pathing, and there are objectives. We all have had them, you know, in terms of what do you want to do when you grow up? You know?
Right.
And so you were over in Byron, and I suspect the people in Byron knew that ultimately that, you know, Jeff was going to be looking for something else, maybe a little bigger venue.
Yeah.
And it's to say that maybe that happens here as well. You know, who's to say? I mean, we don't want to predict the future, but you know, there are for successful people opportunities that you know present themselves.
You know, my time in Byron was, and I don't know that I ever forecasted what my next move would be. Obviously, my wife and I, in fact, in total disclosure, we tried to sell our house a couple of times. Because we thought we were going to be making a move closer to the Byron area. But for some reason, our house didn't sell. And, you know, there's a funny way with fate at times, how it seems to kind of twist and turn in your life. But perhaps it was a larger message that we were destined to be here. And I had a great experience in Byron, and so many great people to work with there. The community, again, is very supportive. But I will tell you that my heart was here. I mean, my kids were being raised here. This is, it's tough to wear silver and blue on a Friday night or on a Tuesday night and then go to Byron and wear black and gold. Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I've shared this with many parents that this is my dream job.
But just think of if you had to wear the blue and silver and then go up to where it was green.
And I've done that before, Pete. When I first came to Owatonna, I was actually doing some coaching here. And I remember walking up at Bruce Smith Field in Faribault, walking up the stands, and I had a couple of people look at me and say, really, blue and silver? And I was like, yeah, that's where I'm working now. Right. So anyway.
Good. What are you bringing? If we were to say, you know, bullet point wise, your 3 top things that you think you're bringing to the district in terms of what you would like to see accomplished and how you are going to help that happen. What would you say are maybe your 3 top thoughts, ideas, initiatives?
You know, I think one of the things, and this is kind of the premise that kind of keeps me going all the time, is that I serve all children. I always underline all with capital A-L-L. It's an interesting dynamic. In the experiences I've had, I've worked with larger school districts. I was in Rochester for 7 years, and I've been in smaller districts as well when I first started teaching, and then in Byron, that's a little smaller district. And, it doesn't matter where kids come from, their backgrounds, their ethnicity, their race. I am so, I'm so passionate about making sure that every child gets exactly what they need to be successful. You know, I've often said the word equity means maybe something different to me than it would to other people. And to me, equity really means, and I have a really cool photo of kids trying to look over a fence to watch a baseball game. And, some kids need a stool to step on, some kids don't. But really, serving all is kind of what I stand for. And I guess furthermore, the other thing is just a continued excellence. We can't be satisfied because we serve tomorrow's future. And if we're not careful, if we settle for good enough, we're going to lose that edge that we may have. And I guess the last part for me is just I want well-balanced, and I want kids to walk out of their high school experience saying, I got everything I needed out of that experience to help prepare me for whatever lies next.
The proverbial toolbox has enough of the stuff that we're going
Correct.
to need to go on. Yeah.
That's right.
And maybe then come back.
That's
Who knows?
exactly
You know,
right.
how many people have done that?
A number of them, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. Organizationally, you're the CEO of the shop.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, by the way, number of employees that are under your
Just over 900 employees.
100.
Yeah.
Just, I wonder just how many people would really realize that when you consider all of the support departments that are, you know, academically certainly we always think of teachers and principals, but you know, what about in the engine room, so to say, you know?
Exactly.
And you have to be cognizant of those as well.
Absolutely. I mean, there's certainly an instructional side, which includes our teachers and paraprofessionals, instructional aides, leadership, things like that. But then there's also an operational side to a school district about who makes sure that the boilers are running and who makes sure that the schools are clean and that the grounds are kept good. And then, of course, there's a business office as well. You know, so it's a big organization, no doubt.
Organization, good. And you know, obviously, you're walking into a place where there's a lot of ground being moved.
That's exactly right.
Being moved around. How are the projects coming along?
You know, the projects are coming along very nicely, and I think, you know, early on in the spring they ran into a few snags with things that were just unintended things that happen with building projects. But they've been making great strides and great progress. And, you know, our goal is we're going to have schools ready on September 5th when our kids come back. And we have heard nothing to the contrary about that. So we're making good progress. Some people might walk by and go, oh my gosh, but contractors work. You know, you'll walk by and all of a sudden in 2 days you'll see so much progress happen. So no, we're all intending on having September 5th be our startup.
Yeah, that's excellent. We've got some changes coming in terms of facility. Washington School will be not necessarily it'll be educational, but it won't be in terms of K through 5 as it has been.
Correct.
As
Yeah.
an example, McKinley is going to be, there's a different McKinley. Gonna be,
That's right.
and there's purpose for that.
Right.
There's a direction for that. Who sets that? Who is it the Board of Education that's really telling you that this is what we want to do? Or is it a collaborative thing that?
Yeah, we visited, early on. The school board actually is the entity that ends up making decisions like that, but they also go off of recommendations and information that's given to them. I've sent out a letter recently to a number of our parents just really highlighting the reasons why, because I've heard that feedback from community members. And although it's certainly not meant to confuse anyone, there was a strong feeling from the parents especially around those buildings, and staff included, that the culture and the name of that culture move with the building. And so when the board kind of went through all of those different scenarios, they took recommendations from my predecessor, Pete Grant, but really decided that was best to keep the names constant, and that we sort of move forward and get rid of the Willow Creek Intermediate School because we don't have an intermediate school any longer.
Yeah, good. We're going to push some of that in terms of educational philosophy. In terms and things are different today, right? I mean, sure different than when I came to this town to teach. In terms of technology and some of the other ways in which we've understand children learning. And so we're going to pursue that. When we come back, we'll take some time for some sponsor messages, and then we'll take part 2.
Great.
Thanks. And we'll just do that right now, so please stay tuned. We're going to take some time for some sponsor messages, and we'll be right back with Jeff. Stay tuned.
Amy Swain Hearing Centers is a proud sponsor of the Owatonna Today Show. I'm Dr. Amy Swain, and I want everyone to hear better.
Recreational fires are allowed within the Owatonna city limits. They must be contained within a fire pit or a device designed for such use, and can be 3 feet in diameter and no more than 3 feet high. They must be 25 feet from a building or combustibles. Only untreated or unpainted woods must be used. Fires must be attended by a person at all times that are capable of extinguishing the fire. This has been a safety tip from the Owatonna Fire Department.
Hi, I'm Betsy Linger from the Owatonna Foundation. Your generosity has made Owatonna a better place to live by benefiting our community, the arts, recreation, and education. Please consider a donation today. The Owatonna Foundation is a proud sponsor of the Owatonna Today Show.
At Triumph Graphics, we think beyond ink. That's why you should make us your source for creative concept, design, print, mail, and web. Check us out today at triumphgraphics.com.
Owatonna Public Utilities, real people, real reliable, real progress. Making life a little easier day after day, taking pride in our community, listening to what you say, a voice you can talk to. We're growing with you in mind in everything we do. Owatonna Public Utilities.
Well, welcome back to the Owatonna Today Show, your community connection. And once again, welcome back to Jeff Elstead, our new superintendent of schools. I wonder when that newness thing, is it rubbed off already? Have you been in the hole long enough to say, whoa, forget the new stuff?
Even though I've lived here for 16 years, I've really been in the post for maybe a month and a half here. And I'm hoping that people will still give me that he's the new guy, so he doesn't quite understand yet for a while.
There's a little aura,
exactly.
A little
the honeymoon period is still there. That's
right.
That's
You'll
right.
know when it ends.
Exactly. That's right. That's right.
We talk about Owatonna being notable. It has been notable for many years for a lot of reasons. Things change, from an environment, an educational environment in this case, statewide, federally. What do you see? What's perhaps good and what's maybe not so good that you see coming out of the legislature, maybe out of Congress, out of the Department of Education generally, that may have an impact on Owatonna, and then what is our response to those things?
As a superintendent, I feel like I've got the greatest connection to a lot of our local legislators, and maybe more so feel like I have a stronger voice within the Minnesota, House or Senate when making some of those decisions. And I've had recent contact with even our local legislators here. I think education has changed so much. I mean, I've been in education in my 24th year, and it's changed so much even in that time. And I think the legislature is trying to make a good move toward preparing students for whatever lies beyond their high school experience. So recently, within the last couple of years, the World's Best Workforce legislation was enacted by our state government. And really what it's looking at is there are 5 basic areas that they want students to be able to attain. It really starts off with readiness for kindergarten, but really caps off then with graduation rates and having the skills necessary, whether they're going to go straight into a career or to a trade or to a college, but really just being prepared. So I think there's been some proactivity around that with our Minnesota legislature. I wish I could say that we've funded those programs as well as we should, but like I said, I've been around public education for a long time, and it continues to be a struggle because we're constantly trying to match the needs of the students that we're serving with the funding we have. And I think it's a careful liaison. We have to be very good stewards of public money. I certainly understand that. But it does cost to provide quality education. And I've had, many contacts with business partners, both large and small, and they certainly understand that it does take those dollars to run a quality program. So, but really the Minnesota legislature, I think, has taken good advice and recommendations from superintendents and from other education advocacy groups to really provide in Minnesota what is still a very, very quality system.
Right.
So
nationally, things are maybe yet in flux. Not a lot of definition coming yet from the administration.
We've kind of ridden the roller coaster, so to speak. It wasn't so long ago that No Child Left Behind was new legislation, and we responded to that with some standardized testing and things of that nature. It's hard to say where the new administration is going to take public education. I know that, obviously Betsy DeVos is in the news quite a bit and has been a strong proponent of the voucher system. And I would tell you, I'm not afraid to say that I'm very fearful of a voucher system. And my biggest fear is that it will create inequities with students, and that some kids can go and choose to go someplace else which may vacate the public schools. And you know, this is something that I really feel strongly about. We're the only nation in the world that still educates all of our children. And that's the most beautiful thing about our country, because it does create freedoms that other countries just simply don't have.
The knowledge base that comes from public, and it's public education, and it's historical. It's founded, you know, it has been proven, you know, and you know, to think that we, you know, that there's a better model, and I suppose you can always look, you know, to see if there's a better model, but it seems to me that we chase some and then come back to, you know, public education.
You know, the interesting thing is, and I just did a little statistical analysis probably last year, but people think, well, you know, education has changed and maybe there isn't the investment in public education as there used to be. In 2017, Pete, we graduated more kids than ever before in history. And I think that's something that's remarkable because, you know, when you think back in time, you know, we've really traveled along a history of public education, and maybe good, bad, or indifferent. Yeah. But we're meeting what we said we were going to do, which is preparing our kids for whatever lies beyond. And so I'm excited about what we can do here in Owatonna. There are things that we're going to try to do to make sure that we commit to our excellence in public education. But as a superintendent, it's my job to continue to work with our Minnesota legislators, as well as even our federal legislators, to remind them that how important public education is, not just to the state of Minnesota, but certainly to Owatonna Public Schools.
The people on the front line, i.e. the classroom teacher, you know, certainly, you know, if everyone plays an important role, but classroom teacher really is, I don't know, for my part, maybe the top of the heap, because they're the ones who are right there. What are we seeing, the talent from the talent pool of public education teachers these days?
Well, Owatonna is incredibly fortunate because we have a very talented group of teachers, but I will tell you, public education teaching in general, we're seeing sort of a slope downward when it comes to the number of college students that are going into education. And that's a concern of mine, because, you know, I'll harken back to even, you know, 5 or 6 years ago, for an elementary position in Owatonna, we would probably get 200 applicants for every elementary position that we posted. And now we're probably getting between 40 and 50. And again, I mean, that's a pretty general license to have. Now let's extrapolate that out further to those that are, you know, some of our career and tech ed courses. You know, we're maybe getting 3 or 4 or 5 applications for those where we used to get, you know, maybe 25 to 30. So that's a concern of ours. What I do see, though, is we can't rest on our laurels and say, well, that's the way it's going to be. We need to start preparing our high school kids for not just what jobs are out there, but what jobs are in schools. In fact, just this coming fall at our high school here, we're starting a program about teacher prep. So that those students that are interested in going into education, we're giving them direction and giving them some experiences so they can kind of sample it to see how is that going to work for a possible career.
Kind of a mini student teaching.
Absolutely. Yeah. We need to grow our own as well because we can't, the statistics are telling us that that's certainly going to be necessary.
And why not?
Yeah, exactly.
You know? I mean,
that's
so,
right.
You know, there's another Elstead out there.
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah,
because I can't do this job forever, so I need somebody to come in and take it over.
Exactly. Well, you know, and those, you know, obviously we have opportunities, and then we have those constraints, and as stated before, we can't be prophetic necessarily about what's going to happen, but you know, we need to be you know, a bit aware and wise as to what could happen, and then make adjustments as necessary.
Right.
How about funding?
You know, as I mentioned before, you know, we're oftentimes in a spot where we're trying to kind of just make it work. In my perfect world, I would love to see a spot where we could be somewhat proactive in how we approach public education funding. You know, a long time ago, the federal government came out and said we're going to fund public education as a constitutional right, and we're not fully funding that yet, and so a lot of it is incumbent, unfortunately, upon the local taxpayers to fund that. So, You know, there's a careful balance with the work that I do because I answer to all constituents in Owatonna. And I hear from our taxpayers that are saying this is really a strain on us, and I understand that message. But on the other hand, I'm also trying to provide the best quality experience for our students, and so sometimes they don't always see eye to eye. But again, it is a careful balance, and we do our best to make sure that we're still being responsible, fiscally responsible as a school district, yet again providing that quality.
The alternative is not acceptable.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's exactly right.
We're going to have to push the proverbial pause button at that point, and I'm going to say thank you for being a very enlightening conversationalist about what you see and what you're going to be doing. And best wishes, congratulations on your appointment. Best wishes for success, not only for personal success, but for organization success.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here. I'll have you back again.
Okay.
And thank you for being with us today. We're going to take a bit of a break for some sponsor messages, and then we'll be right back, so don't go away.
Hi, my name is Dave Efforts with TPS Insurance. We're here to handle all your insurance needs. We are a very proud supporter of the Owatonna Today Show.
Well, welcome back to the Owatonna Today Show, your community connection. Some community announcements. Crazy Days are on the way. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday coming up. A whole bunch of things. Too much on the flyer to really to talk about, but if you've been in town ever for any length of time, even a year, you know about Crazy Days, and it's a fun time, good time. Hopefully the weather will cooperate, but look for Crazy Days coming up next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Penny George Institute for Health and Healing at the Owatonna Hospital has expanded its retail services by adding Healing Touch and wellness coaching. To learn more about the programs and services at Owatonna Hospital's Penny George Institute, visit alinahealth.org, or to make an appointment, call 507-977-2828. A media release from the Owatonna Police Department about guns being stolen. We don't like to talk about this kind of stuff, but anyway, over the last month, OPD has been seeing a rise in thefts of firearms. The byword and the watchword is, keep control of your handguns, keep them out of harm's way, out of sticky fingers way, and keep them safe, and let's not have too many of these anymore. Owatonna Area Shrine Club annual family golf event at Havana Hills, Saturday, August 5th, 2017, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., $8 for a ticket. Can be purchased at Costa's Candies and Restaurant or any area Shriner. Last one, the public is welcome to nominate an individual for Culture Fest Ambassador Award to the person who best illustrates the core values of Culture Fest. For an official application form, please visit our website at www.culturefest.org, or you might also write a letter nominating the person of your choice and mail it to P.O. Box 1015 1015, Owatonna. Otherwise, if you have questions, contact Laura Ressler at 456-7738, and that'll take care of it for today. Come on back on Monday, where we're going to have AmeriCorps. We'll talk about AmeriCorps, and as well a visit with Lou Ann Coppa of Eat Well Nutrition Therapy. Take care. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll look forward to having you back here on Monday. Good to have you with us.